Just Jim in the comments says, what about Scott Brown calling fans vultures? Aye, it's been interesting, the reaction to that.
I think that was Scott Brown. Hold on a wee second here. Can we clarify? So there are Celtic fans having a go at Callum McGregor. Scott Brown was in the trenches next to Callum McGregor for how many years? Scott Brown feels almost like big brother, fatherly towards Callum McGregor. And he's looking at people having a go at him. Having a go at him for what? Having a go because he's so desperate for Celtic to do well that he's prepared to play through an injury and get through the pain barrier for the sake of the shirt. And Scott Brown, 100%, you would expect that of your mate, wouldn't you? Come back, if you were getting a hard time that you didn't deserve, you'd expect people to come out and speak up for you. And Scott Brown might have used a phrase that some Celtic fans didn't like, but he's absolutely right. These are vultures. These are people that are circling and they want to have a go and they want to, have their say on a guy that's out there breaking his back for the football club. I think Scott Brown had more than every right to say what he said, and I can't believe that people say what they say on the internet. Some of the stuff that you see swirling about is horrendous. Scott Brown uses vulture, and oh my God, have you ever heard anything like it? It's pathetic. Grow up, everybody.
I tell you what, Daniel, I mean, I mentioned it last night, but no, wait till Celtic fans see the Celtic team without Callum McGregor, innit? Honestly, I mean, that's, I mean, we say that about a lot of players, but they'll soon know how good he was, how influential he was when he's not there. We said it last night. I don't think there's that succession that there's been. No, when it was Scott Brown, then Callum McGregor. I know James Forrest and Kieran Tierney are still at the club, but I don't think they're they'd have that big an influence, in terms of what Brown and McGregor's had on a dressing room. So those Celtic
it's also
fans,
that key position, Scott, isn't
it? Exactly,
100%.
And the guys that are being critical of Callum McGregor, honestly, I think they're in for a shock when he's not there, because very, very difficult to replace that influence. You might be able to replace the quality, in terms of the passing and the shooting and the level of skill. You might be able to get into the market, spend a few quid and get something.
You'll be doing well, because that'll cost you a few bob.
I know. You might get similar kind of technical ability, but in terms of the influence on that dressing room, the will to win, the desire, the hunger, to win things for Celtic, that's almost irreplaceable unless you've got someone ready to fill his shoes, and I don't think Celtic have.
We've got in the comments, Chick says the likes of McGregor, Forrest and Brown's trophy hall are one of the reasons Celtic fans have a happier disposition than the angry governors. And this one as well, from Part This, who says, got to say, Callum McGregor must be considered one of the best SPL players over the last decade. On the pitch at the weekend, do you think he'll get the result, and will he be in the final looking for trophy number 25?
I do, but I don't think it's going to be easy. Yeah. And I know that we were discussing before we come on here tonight, Dan, about what time we're going for Hotline Live on Sunday. And the plan is, folks, we'll be going live at 4 p.m. on Sunday afternoon after the 2 Cup semi-finals. However, we are going to have to factor in the possibility, and I could see this happening. I can see that one has every chance of going all the way, extra time, the full shebang.
Yeah,
I think Celtic will get there, because that's just what they're doing right now. They're still managing to find a way to get through these moments, difficult matches. They're struggling for form, but they just seem to be able to eke it out when they need to. And that won't last forever. It can't last forever. I don't know if it'll even last to the end of the season. But I think it'll strike again this weekend. I think Celtic will do what Celtic need to do to get past St Mirren. But I think they'll get a hell of a game.
What do you think of that, Scott?
I tend to agree, Daniel. I think Celtic will scrape through. It might not be pretty, but Martin O'Neill or a Martin O'Neill team will just do what they do and get the job done. I think, and get into the final, even if they don't play well. From a St Mirren point of view, it's going to be really interesting under this manager, because St Mirren obviously beat Celtic, and I know it was a different manager, Wilfred Nancy, obviously, but they beat Celtic in the League Cup playing a certain way. They kind of bullied them, and it was playing into channels and being physical. And Craig McLeish is trying to change the way St Mirren play. He's tried to change it in the last few weeks. Get them playing better football, playing out for the back. And it's going to be really interesting to see whether they can actually go and beat Celtic in that manner. And I think they might just come up short. He's at the start of that process. He wants the job. He wants to kind of obviously move this team in a different direction, put his own kind of imprint on it. But it's still early days, and I think they might still struggle to get the better of Celtic at Hampden. I agree with Jacko. I think it'll be tight, really tough game for Celtic, but I think they've just got more potential match winners in their team. Negrin, Iheanacho, Oxlade-Chamberlain, maybe just somebody to come up with a moment that will get them over the line.
Yeah, it's a fair comment, Keith. Really, the only thing that I would say, reading some of the comments that are coming in, who's going to score the goals for Celtic? Who do you start up front? If you're Martin O'Neill, do you just pick a name
but they've been doing it, Dan. They've been operating without a striker, and that's one of the reasons that they're so vulnerable, and that's one of the reasons that I keep saying that it can't go on indefinitely, this. So, yeah, there is that possibility that the bubble bursts this weekend, because you can't keep relying on Negrin or it was Oxlade-Chamberlain at the weekend. And it kind of goes back to what I started talking about weeks ago, Daniel, about how neither Rangers nor Celtic at that point in time were operating with functioning attacks, proper strikers, goal scorers, reliable, prolific number 9s. Celtic are still in that position. Rangers, on the other hand, might just have timed it perfectly with, even though Nadiri's out now, you've got Milovski scored 3 in the last couple of games, and Chermiti's weighed in with a couple now at Falkirk. So they're actually, that if you're Rangers, that's a big reason to feel confident going into this point in the season. If you're Celtic, you're just looking about going, please, who's going to come up with one today? Because chances are it's not going to be any of the guys that are playing up front. And that's not a great position. That's obviously a terrible position to be in. Let's get it right. And it's a position that down the years I can't really remember Celtic being in. Celtic always had firepower. They always had strikers, and you're looking at Martin O'Neill as the guy who started all this with, as I said before, Henrik Larsson, Chris Sutton, John Hartson.